programming languages of web development. So we've been able to understand some key concepts or some key terms on the web, like the internet, HTTP, the IP address, domain name system, the browser, static sites, dynamic sites, SEO, front end and back end, right? Now let's not talk about programming. First, a program is a set of instructions, okay, for performing a task. For the front end development, we have different technologies that we use, but the three core technologies that we use on the front end are the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All right, so HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the standard markup language for creating web pages. It uses tags to describe the contents of the web. All right. I mentioned the other time what an hypertext is, right? So an hypertext is a text, okay, that acts as a link, which means whenever you click on this text, it will redirect you to a page on the web. So hypertext markup language. Now, so a brief introduction to HTML. The early days of HTML, again, was meant to create to mission, right? So people didn't have the idea of creating stunning or amazing websites then. They only use it to share information. So you can actually take a newspaper as an example. Then you can actually go online and then you create a site, or maybe for research job or a research work, maybe you are writing your project. You can just go online and then you get a web page. HTML. So the early days we use the HTML to share information. Now going forward, they realize that there is a way they can make it better. They can make the site look attractive, which is the job of CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screens, papers, or other media. Again, look at this Netflix site. If we should take away the CSS files from this website, we're going to see how ugly this is to look. So with the help of CSS, you can see everything is well aligned. You can see the typography looking very nice. You can see the form elements looking beautiful, and even the button, right? You can see this nice curve here, right? This is achieved using CSS. Again, if you look at the definition here, it describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screens, papers, or other media. And then we have JavaScript. JavaScript here is a programming language. So it's a cross-platform, lightweight, and object-oriented programming language used for creating interactive and dynamic web pages. So when you hear the word cross-platform, it means that you can run that technology on different OS. So like JavaScript, you can run it on Windows OS, you can run it on Mac OS, you can run it on Linux. Think of any OS you're using, you can run your JavaScript on it. And then lightweight implies that it doesn't eat up much memory of your computer. And oriented means that the language is based, almost everything about the language is based on an object. And basically, an object is a collection of properties. A collection of properties, and a property is the association between a key and the value. Now we can model a car as an object, right? And if I ask you what are some of the properties of a car, obviously we have the what's it called, the car color, the car model. So is it a Benz? Is it Highlander, Toyota? Is it Camry? Right? Some of another property is the manufacturer, the year the car was manufactured, right? So we can model a car as an object. Same way we can model a person as an object. So some of the properties of a person are the first name of the person, the last name, age, nationality. So in an object-oriented, right, we can model different things as an entity. So don't worry, by the time we get to that stage, you're going to see more of that. But then one thing you should take note of is this interactive and dynamic. So we use JavaScript to create an interactive site. Now back to Netflix again. Look at this button. I can interact with this button with the help of JavaScript. So without JavaScript, there is no way I can submit this form. All right. So with JavaScript, when I click on this button, right, there is a code that the developer must have written such that when a user or the online visitor clicks on the button, right, the code will be run, and then it will do whatever the code or the program that has been written for that button, and then to get performed, basically. All right. And then dynamic. So I think I explained what a dynamic website is the other time. No, a site that can change, content can actually change over time. So you can create posts, you can edit posts, you can delete posts. And then we have the back end. Obviously, this training focuses more on the front end, but then, for the sake of web development, let's touch on the back end as well. So we have the back end. We have languages like Java. We have the Go language. We have the PHP language. All right. So these are some of the languages or technologies that we use for back end development. Okay. So for this training, um, we are going to set up our environment, which I believe some of us have done that. So a code editor is a specialized text editor designed to help programmers to write and edit code efficiently. So it's a tool that makes the coding process smoother by offering features tailored to the needs of developers. So for instance, because that in the final year writing their projects, perfect tools for them is Microsoft Word, or maybe the Google Documents, right? You can use that to edit your work. You can type, you can format your text, you can align text to the left, to the right. So this is the job of a code editor. So as a developer or as a designer, you need a code editor to write your code, to edit your code, to format your text. All right, so there are different code editors for writing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, some of which are Sublime Text, Notepad, Visual Studio Code, Brackets, Adobe Dreamweaver, Atom. But then throughout this course, we will be using the Visual Studio Code editor. So if you haven't downloaded it or if you haven't installed it, please, it's quite simple, very straightforward. You can open up your browser and then search for Visual Studio Code, maybe download. And you can go for the first link here, Visual Studio Code. And we have different OS. So if you're on Windows, download the one for Windows. If you're on Mac, download the one for Mac. And if you're on Linux, download the one for Linux. So whatever OS you're using, the software is available. And the installation is quite straightforward, self-explanatory, and user-friendly.